If you walked into a university classroom in the 1950s and saw a man who stood barely 5'2", looking more like a friendly neighborhood tailor than a world-altering genius, you probably wouldn't think, there stands the man who will dismantle the economic status quo of the entire planet. But that was Milton Friedman. He was small in stature, but he possessed an intellectual engine that could outrun a freight train. Today, we're talking about a man who didn't just study numbers, he studied freedom. Milton Friedman is known as the father of modern free market economics, a Nobel Prize winner, and the advisor to presidents and prime ministers. But more than that, his life is a masterclass in how a kid with no money and a lot of no's can change the way the world works through sheer discipline and the courage to be the most unpopular person in the room. Milton wasn't born into a boardroom. He was born in Brooklyn in 1912 to Jewish immigrants from what is now Ukraine. His parents worked in sweatshops, grim, grueling textile factories. They had nothing. When Milton was 15, his father died, leaving the family in even tighter straits. He didn't have a safety net. He had a work ethic. He managed to get into Rutgers University on a scholarship, but here's a fun fact. He actually wanted to be an actuary. You know, the people who calculate insurance risks. He failed some of his actuarial exams. Imagine that. One of the greatest mathematical minds in history failed a test. But that failure pushed him toward economics, a pivot that changed history. He spent his 20s during the Great Depression. He saw breadlines and bank runs. While most people thought the answer was for the government to take total control, Milton started asking a dangerous question. What if the government is actually making this worse? For about 20 years, Milton Friedman was the underdog. In the 1950s and 60s, his ideas were about as popular as a skunk at a garden party. The experts believed the government should manage every detail of the economy. Milton argued for the individual. He argued for the power of the choice you make with your own dollar. He was mocked. He was ignored. He was told his ideas were dangerous. But did he back down? Not an inch. He understood that persistence isn't just about working hard. It's about standing your ground when the majority tells you you're wrong. He stayed motivated because he wasn't looking for applause. He was looking for the truth. He had this incredible mindset where he viewed every debate not as a fight, but as a puzzle. He would smile. He had this famous beaming grin, while absolutely dismantling an opponent's argument. He didn't get angry. He got sharper. You don't get to his level by winging it. Milton's discipline was legendary. He wasn't just a big ideas guy. He was a big data guy before big data existed. He and his wife, Rose, who was his intellectual equal and co-author, would spend years meticulously researching history. His most famous work, A Monetary History of the United States, took nearly a decade of grueling, boring, painstaking research into old bank records and spreadsheets. He lived by a simple rule. If you can't back it up with logic and evidence, it's just an opinion. He sacrificed the easy path of being a celebrity academic to do the hard work of proving his theories right. To understand Milton, you have to hear his wit. Let's look at a few of his most famous quotes and what they actually mean for us. There is no such thing as a free lunch. This is his most famous line. It means everything has a cost, even if you aren't the one paying the bill right now. It teaches us to look beneath the surface and realize that success requires a trade-off. Nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program. Milton had a great sense of humor about bureaucracy. He learned through observation that once a habit or a system starts, it's hard to stop. Lesson: be careful what habits you start today. The most important single central fact about a free market is that no exchange takes place unless both parties benefit. This is about empathy. He believed that for you to succeed, you have to provide value to someone else. Success isn't a zero-sum game. I am in favor of cutting taxes under any circumstances and for any excuse, for any reason, whenever it's possible. He was cheeky, but his point was deeper. He believed people know how to spend their own money better than a distant committee does. It's a lesson in personal agency. History suggests that capitalism is a necessary condition for political freedom. He saw economics as a tool for human rights. He didn't just care about money. He cared about people being free to live their own lives. A society that puts equality before freedom will get neither. A society that puts freedom before equality will get a high degree of both. This was his core belief. He challenged us to prioritize the liberty of the individual, believing that when we are free to pursue our best selves, everyone wins. If you want to see how Milton thought, look up his lesson of the pencil. He once held up a simple yellow pencil and explained that nobody in the world knows how to make it. The person who cuts the cedar wood doesn't know how to mine the graphite. The person who makes the brass ferrule doesn't know how to grow the rubber tree for the eraser. Thousands of people who don't speak the same language or like the same politics work together to make a 10-cent pencil. He found magic in the mundane. He was a guy who could get excited about a piece of stationery because it represented human cooperation. He was famously kind to students, often spending hours debating a freshman with the same intensity he'd use with a world leader. He was a giant who never looked down on anyone. So, what do we take away from the 5'2" giant of economics? First, embrace being the underdog. If you have an idea that people are laughing at, remember that Milton was laughed at for decades before he won the Nobel Prize. Second, do the work. Excellence isn't an accident. It's the result of the boring discipline, the hours of study, the checking of facts, the refining of your craft. Third, keep your sense of humor. Milton changed the world while wearing a smile. He knew that you don't have to be miserable to be serious about your goals. As you head out today, think about that free lunch. Nothing in your life, not your fitness, not your career, not your relationships, will come for free. There is always a cost in time, effort, and discipline. But if you are willing to pay that price, like Milton did, you won't just be a witness to history, you will be the one writing it. Go out there, stay disciplined, stay curious, and remember, the world is waiting for your contribution.